Assalamu alaikum, welcome back to the Dadhood podcast. This is episode 15 with Yusuf Kalam. Yusuf is a fundraising manager at Muslim Aid and he is a brand new father. His daughter is only 1 month old. And this episode, I tell you, is amazing. This is one of the episodes where I've stayed silent the longest because his story about his wife's pregnancy and the labor and the birth and everything is just amazing. Literally, you need to take your time out to listen to this. I was gonna fall into tears whilst he was telling his story, and you guys might as well. I also must say that this episode ends quite abruptly because my son walked into the room and he knocked over my camera. And so we had to sort of end it there. I didn't say to Yusuf on camera, so I must say it now that may Allah bless your daughter, may Allah bless your family. It was amazing having you on. And for those of you who get to the end of the episode, you'll see that it ends up properly. So this is your warning. Anyway, make sure you subscribe, and you can find this Dadhood podcast on all the podcast streaming platforms: iTunes, Google Podcast, Spotify. So you can follow it on there, download it on there, and you can also obviously watch it on YouTube. So drop a comment, drop a like, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff, and let me know what you think of this episode. Assalamu alaikum, Yusuf. Thank you for coming on. Welcome to the Dadhood podcast.
Glad to be here, man. How you doing, Shoaib?
Good, alhamdulillah. I'm good, I'm well. I wanted to catch up with you for a long time, and as I said to you, let's leave it for the podcast because everything that we were going to catch up about was pretty much going to be about you becoming a new father. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. So usually I ask the guests, how many children do you have? How old were you when you had your children? But there's no need for that. Let's go straight off the bat. We know that you're a brand new father, and your daughter's what, maybe a month old now?
Literally a month today.
No way.
Yeah,
Yes.
mashallah.
Yes, good timing, bro. Good timing, alhamdulillah. See, we were gonna do this last week. You did this on purpose, innit? You're like, let me get to the one
Exactly, there
month
you
mark.
go. It needs to be memorable.
Mashallah, mashallah. Okay, wicked. So, look, we're gonna go straight into that and the whole journey behind it, and how you felt throughout sort of the pregnancy and also this kind of first month. And I think I've only had one other person on before that has spoken about their immediate experience. The first episode I did was with a brother called Taha. But the difference with him is that he already had two older children. So his immediate experience was with his third child, who was a newborn at that time. So with
Been
you,
there, done that.
being there, done that, we had conversations about, other things that he's more experienced in. But with you, you're fresh meat. This is like new territory for you. So I think this is gonna be inshallah beneficial to other brothers who maybe are thinking about having children or are in that process, and they need to get maybe some idea of how it is. Obviously everybody's journey is probably unique, but I think there's a lot that we can learn from other brothers' experiences because I don't think it gets talked about much, especially the early years. Even like in my own research that I do for this project, I find that there is not loads, but there are more services catered towards fathers who have children that are maybe from 4 or 5 years old up until teenage years. But there's nothing really, nobody's really talking about those early years. Maybe that's because typically in our cultures, that's more kind of the mother's duty, and the fathers might not get involved so much. But I think that's starting to change, and I think clearly with you, there's a difference there as well. As in, I haven't spoken to you about it, but I imagine that you're somebody who, I'm not gonna say it was fun to go through that. There's obviously difficulties, but I think you're somebody who took it on. You wanted to experience what it was all like. So let's go into it, bro. When you found out your wife was pregnant, what was going through your mind?
Bro, when I first found out, alhamdulillah, it was just, there isn't another word to describe it apart from joy, like, not concern or worry, but just that excitement. I think
Really? Were
that's
you
the
not
best
scared?
way. I wasn't scared because we wanted to have children. And again,
Okay.
I'll go back to that as well because what I found, especially when I was younger, bro, when I just got married, I was
Yeah,
quite naive in the sense that I thought that if you wanted to have a baby, you can have a child. You know, it's a standard norm. You see everyone who's married, give it 4 or 5 years, or maybe even 2 or 3 years, and they have children.
yeah,
But once I got married and I started speaking to a lot of my friends, even what's called the community around me, I started noticing that people were having complications, you
mm,
know, and even just my inner and outer circle, I knew people who had stillbirths, people that had miscarriages,
yeah,
people who have been trying to have a baby for 4 or 5 years. So when me and my wife decided that we did want to have children, I didn't take that for granted. That look,
mm,
this journey might not be easy. This journey might have some trials and tribulations. So once I did find out that we was going to have a child, I was so ecstatic. I couldn't believe it. I was over the moon. But at the same time, because of all of those things that have happened around me,
mm.
I didn't want to get too excited because I didn't want to let on to my wife that, oh, we're having a child. And I was very careful to even use the word baby because
Right,
I was mindful that, if we hit that 3 month period and anything does go wrong, she's going to feel that I've lost a child, I've lost a baby. And I've had friends and contacts who have gone through that pain and difficulty. So I was very mindful not to use that language. I was like, look, it's fine, it doesn't mean anything. It's not even anything. So I kept
right.
saying that. I got to a stage where she's like 6 months pregnant, 9 months pregnant. I'm still like, no, it's not a baby, it's not a baby. You can say, even though like you see the sonogram and all those things. So I was trying to defer all of that as much as possible, just to manage expectations and trying to avoid her, getting upset, potentially getting upset
Yeah,
about the loss of any child that we might be experiencing. So
yeah,
that was the first hurdle or thing that was in my mind, that people around me are finding it difficult
hmm,
to conceive. People around me, what's called, have had the trauma of miscarriages and stillbirths, and I didn't want to put that onus on my wife and myself. So
yeah,
I thought, let's try and do as much as possible, and we tried to keep it private as long as possible as well, until we felt that it was a good enough time to share that news with people. But bringing it back to your first question, I think the biggest thing was excitement. I was like, okay, look, now the journey begins, and I need to get ready.
yeah.
So there was excitement, there was happiness, there was a few tears, but all in all, yeah, I couldn't wait to be a father.
Mashallah, mashallah. That's good. That's a good sign that you're going to be a great father, inshallah. Uh, but going back to that point that you mentioned about people in your community having complications and that you didn't even realize that. Do you think that that's an issue, that it's maybe a taboo, it's something that's hidden, it's not something that's spoken about? Or do you think that's naturally what happens? Like people just don't want to talk about it and that's just naturally what happens? Or do you feel like actually it's wrong, people should express themselves so it gives other people a chance to understand that this is normal?
So I think this is where men and women are very different. What I found is when a husband or whether a father experiences that type of pain, or even a brother, loses a child,
Yeah,
they try and keep themselves busy. Like they try and compartmentalize it, that they've
yeah,
lost this person, or they've had a miscarriage, and they're upset, and their main focus is their wife,
yeah,
because she's finding it more difficult emotionally. And I feel that women naturally are a bit more sensitive, a bit more emotional.
mm,
So even people around me who have gone through that, um, the brothers again, they're quite closed. You have to try and extract it for them, and they usually refer back to their wife. That, look, my wife's going through this pain, and they can just maybe speak about it. They release and have that release, and then that's it. They move on. Whereas a female will just continue, even if it's past, even if they continue to have children, they still speak about it, and that's become very clear to me in my circle and my outer circle as well. Even when me and my wife have discussions about what's called people that we know, we realize that the brothers and the sisters deal with grief in a very different way.
yeah,
And I feel that you'll see females express it, whereas the brothers try to keep it a bit more close, and they don't want to speak about it. And I think what also happens in our community is, and I was a victim of this as well, to be honest with you, because and you know, it's only later on when I realized that it's so common amongst my friends, family, my community, is that we can easily say, oh, Shreyb, you've been married for 4 or 5 years. When are you going to start having kids?
Yeah.
But what we don't realize is they might be actually trying to have kids,
Mm.
but for whatever reason, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hasn't given them that opportunity yet. And that can become stressful in itself.
Mm.
That family and friends are pressurizing, so to speak, that couple. Like, when are you going to have kids? You're getting older. You're not getting any younger.
Yeah.
And what they don't realize is they might be having those struggles, but they don't want to really speak about it openly, or they might have had that trauma of miscarriage. And again, it's not something they want to relive. Whereas when I speak to about when a few brothers opened up to me, even me, I was a bit caught off guard,
Yeah.
because whenever my group of friends anyway speak to me about trauma or difficulties or their feelings, it's quite alien. We never
Mm.
really speak about our feelings. So when it does come when they do open up, I don't really know how to react. Whereas
Yeah.
with my wife, you know, you know, constantly, you know, I'll hear her problems or to day trials and tribulations, but I never hear it from a brother. So when that happens, I think it's from both sides. The brother even having the courage to open up, and then when he does, the friend or the colleague, how to respond is quite alien to people. So I
Yeah.
think that is quite a difficulty. I think people should have a space to open up,
Yeah.
because I think what people would realize is it's more common
Mm.
than they're aware of, and they can actually give good advice in terms of how to overcome that, or how to support their wife, or even how to deal with it with themselves.
Yeah.
Because what we tend to do is we just bottle it up, or we have different outlets. You know, we'll just get go to the gym, or we'll end up doing more work, or we'll just leave our house, because
Yeah.
we're trying to have that space. But what we're doing is we're not really um, dealing with it face on, and that's going to eat away at us, you know, without us realizing. So it's
Yeah.
crazy, to be honest with you, Trey.
And I think
These things are
maybe
taking place.
sometimes brothers, they try to put a lot of hope in actually maybe having the child in you trying further, and then having another child, and that becoming successful, and so they hold on to that hope, and they don't want to say anything in that period, because they just want to focus on trying to have that, and so that they think that, okay, if I succeed and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives me that child, I don't have to address that issue anymore, and I can bottle it and I can put it away, because now I've got the child, and nobody
Exactly.
nobody had to even know that I had to go through that thing, because I never said it, and I've got my child, and nobody can say anything. But that probably still lives with you, even after you have the child. I think maybe we feel like, if we hit that goal, that's it. I don't have to address this issue anymore, but you're probably still gonna have to live with it.
So that's exactly a good point that you've raised, Trip. I know brothers who have been in that exact same situation,
Mm.
and the way a husband deals with it and how the wife deals with it are two different. Well, like, I know what's called an acquaintance of mine who's experienced that, and the wife can't forget. She
Yeah,
still, even though they've had kids after that, she can't forget the children that it was called that didn't survive,
yeah,
and she's always thinking about them. Whereas the brother's like, look, why, like, getting angry or frustrated, like, it's fine. We've got this person, we've got this child, we've got more children. Like, look at the benefit that we have. But again, he's not dealing with it. He's suppressing his emotions. He's suppressing that heartache that he may have had. And I
yeah,
think what's more difficult is bottle that up as a brother. And then, me and you, we go to eat or wherever it might be, and you're lashing out. I'm just gonna think you're in a bad mood, or Shoaib or Yusuf, he's always in a bad mood. He's always not coming out. He's on lock by his wife, so to speak. Why doesn't he
yeah.
ever come? He's actually maybe with his wife, but if you don't express it,
Mm.
your family and your friends can't give you that space. They can't give you that support, and what they then infer is incorrect information, that you're being hostile, or
Yeah.
you're isolating yourselves from the community. You're
Mm.
not as active as you was before, or what's called, oh, why aren't you free? Even your work can have an effect, because
Yeah.
your work is giving you additional pressure, and you're like, no, I can't do it. They're like, why can't you do it? And
Yeah.
you might make an excuse and speak to someone else, and they find out that that's not the reality. So they're like, oh, this person's a liar. So it adds to the stress, it adds to the burden. When if you open up, then people can give you that support. And I think, especially when it comes to like miscarriages, stillbirths, there's nothing to be ashamed of. It's nothing
Yeah.
you've done wrong. It's nothing with yourself or your wife. If it's not in your if it's not qadar of Allah, it's not there. Like it's
Yeah.
something we have to accept that this is the journey that we're on. You haven't done anything wrong, and you shouldn't be ashamed of it. Sometimes by us even keeping it quiet, we're adding to that we are ashamed of what's
Yeah.
happened. And why should you be ashamed? You had this child, it didn't happen forever. And again, if it passes the a specific period, we know that this child will go to Jannah Firdaus. So be
Yeah.
proud and have that honor that you've got a child already there. Like, how many people are in our communities? How many people do we know that we know is guaranteed Jannah?
Yeah.
Guaranteed. Hardly any. So that should be
Mm.
something you should be proud of. Yes, it's a loss, but also celebrate the fact that your child's there waiting for you. Inshallah, you get to see them as well in the hereafter.
And also there are some narrations that that child will drag you towards Jannah with him or with her as well. So then, even you're getting the benefit of that, and also that there is during the pregnancy that the wife is narrated is in a state of struggle, in a state of jihad essentially, and she's getting rewarded for that in
Mm.
every moment that she's pregnant. So even if that pregnancy didn't go to the 9 months and the baby was born, even if it ended prematurely, still in that period, that wife has benefited for her akhirah, or the mother, sorry, has benefited from for her akhirah from just that experience. So definitely, there's a lot of positive to take from it, and it's very, I think, interesting that you managed to sort of understand a lot of that before having your child, because I think a lot of people, they only discover this later, because now they're in
Mm.
those circles of being around the mothers and the fathers and the families and talking about these things, whereas obviously when you're single or when you're just a young couple, that's not always at the forefront of your mind. It's not something that you're always looking out for, and so when it happens, it can come as a shock because you've not looked into it, or you've not been around people who have experienced that. So I think it's good that you managed to, you were in the circumstances where there were people around you that shared that, or you were able to see that, or you did whatever research, because then obviously that helped you to be kind of mentally prepared for anything that could possibly happen. So let's go back now to your feelings and your story. So you're ecstatic about becoming a father, which is great. But how did those 9 months go for you and your wife? Were there any complications that you wish to share, that and how you and your wife managed to get over that? And how did you balance those 9 months whilst also be working full time and any other responsibilities that you have?
So I think overall the journey was leading up to the delivery was what you expect.
Okay.
We had our appointments because of COVID. Again, because my child's pretty much a COVID baby, I had the benefit of being working from home. So I had that level of flexibility where my wife had me to support her in terms of going to her appointments. If she needed anything at home, I was there to assist her. I think the first time there was a bit of nerve that hit me was, and again, it was good. It's because of my circle as well. So I was acutely aware that a child can have disabilities and all of these different medical conditions. So I think it was the second or third appointment. They said that they'll take a sample from my wife to determine if the child might have certain disabilities.
Yeah.
So they've done that. Then they said they'll let me know within 2 weeks in terms of the result. So my wife was actually away. She wasn't in the house, and I got the letter. So I opened the letter, and I didn't read it properly. So I just because I was trying to skim through, trying to find the juicy parts, so to speak. Just I just want to know what the result was, and I read it incorrectly. And subhanAllah, within those 2 minutes, I would like I was thinking, I can't believe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala like is challenging me or testing me in this way because I felt that he there's what's that medical condition? Sorry,
Down syndrome.
Down syndrome. That's
Yeah.
it. So I read it and it was good. I read it as if that my child was going to have Down syndrome,
Yeah.
and I know that's difficult. I've seen aunts and uncles who have had a child with Down syndrome, and I was thinking, me and my wife are going to have to dedicate our complete life around this child, and our relationship isn't going to be the same.
Yeah.
So within those 2 minutes, I was thinking about all of these different things, and I was like, Subhanallah, I don't know if I'm strong enough to
Mm.
navigate this. I don't know. Like my whole life is gonna change. I'm gonna have to maybe change my career. I'm gonna have to maybe like include my family a lot more because my wife's not between me and my wife. I'm not gonna be able to do this. But all of this was going through my mind within those 2 minutes, and I haven't even told my wife yet. Thinking, how am I even gonna
Yeah.
break this news to her? Then I reread it, and subhanAllah, I reread it, and it said that your child does not have these symptoms.
Subhanallah.
So I was like, subhanAllah, like this, that was a wake up. That my first was that, you know what, this isn't going to be as smooth sailing as I think it is,
Right.
because I was thinking this is the first hurdle, and this is the first scare, and
Yeah.
I couldn't handle it. So I was thinking, what else is there down the
Mm.
line? So obviously, I called
Yeah.
my wife. Was we don't have this. But I was panicking at that point. I was like, look, I need to just try and navigate this. And even though me and my wife are partners, I felt like I was taking my own journey because I didn't want to include her in certain things because I want to protect her. I want to make sure that she's not um, overtly stressed, and I don't want to say anything that could maybe impact the pregnancy as well.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of I was bottling up. There's a lot of things. Obviously, she was getting on my nerves here and there as well. Was with the pregnancy, but that's natural because she
Of
have
course.
cravings or she'll have this.
Yeah. Did she have some crazy
She
cravings?
already has this much patience. Went down to this, so no, it wasn't too bad. Like I was waiting for like ice cream or something like that, but it was just like fruits and fish. It was so boring. I was thinking at least let me just enjoy in this, but nothing amazing
You got it easy,
in
man.
terms of her
Mashallah.
cravings. So yeah, so that was the first I'd say hurdle that we faced, and then it went well. She was struggling in terms of the pains,
Yeah.
all of that stuff, so it wasn't too bad. And
So
then
how did
I
you
remember,
as the husband support her through that pain, and obviously it's your first time. It is
yeah,
obviously if like I said, I had brothers on the podcast who have been through multiple pregnancies, so they know how their wife's gonna react. By the time the second or the third child is there, they know what the process is gonna look like. They know what they need to do at what month, at what period, at the third trimester, the second trimester. But for you, it's obviously all new, and it's and what I find is that that period it's not really explained to fathers in our communities.
mm,
It's sort of it's expected that when you get there, you're just gonna get along with it. You don't need to know about it. So how did
yeah.
you kind of support your wife through that?
So I think the first thing I did was whenever I saw her agitated, I would try and ask friends who have been through the same journey, leaning on people who have gone that experience, especially people who are similar to me in age, because I thought
Yeah.
they'd have a better understanding.
Mm.
And my wife would be in the same age bracket as their wives, so they may have a similar upbringing, similar
Yeah.
expectations. Because first I thought, let me go to my elders, but I think that wouldn't work really because they might not understand some of the different dynamics that are
Yeah.
in play. So that's one thing I did. Again, I was reading a lot. I was trying to understand because I downloaded a few baby apps as well, trying to understand what to expect down the line, and then trying to be supportive. So if I knew certain things trigger my wife, then trying to counteract that beforehand or
Yeah.
trying to make sure that she's as comfortable as possible.
Mm.
Um, so it was a bit of a challenge, but like I mentioned, that element wasn't too bad in terms of I just had to bottle it up. and not lash out. And to be honest, my wife in that regard was okay. She didn't have any like huge cravings. She wasn't losing the plot like constantly. So that alhamdulillah, I wasn't challenged in that regard. So I
Alhamdulillah.
got off lucky. I got off lucky.
That's good. That's good. Alhamdulillah. Did you find out what the gender was, or did you wait until the birth?
We waited. So we waited. We want
Wow.
to
Okay.
keep it
How
as a little
how
surprise.
how did you
Yeah.
manage to do that, man? Because I couldn't do it, right? Like, so for the first one, me and my wife like, now we have to know, we have to know. I can't do it. I need to know what it is, yeah. And for the second one, I thought, well, why don't I experiment here? So I'm gonna try and not know. But then my wife was still like, no, no, no. She wants to know. So she had to do her best to basically keep it from me. So she found out, but she didn't say anything. So if she would buy any
Okay.
clothes that might look, feminine and whatnot, because obviously the second one was a girl, Sarah. So she would hide that. She would put it somewhere. She would say, "Don't go in there. There's gonna be baby clothes there. You don't want to know what it is. Don't open that drawer."
Yeah.
So she had to like hide it from me, and she hid it from the whole family as well. And then we only found out like at the birth. So how did you manage to like keep yourself from wanting to find out?
So because again, there's no proof in this, but I already knew I was gonna have a girl. I already knew, like I had a feeling already down the line. So I was like, I know it's gonna be a girl. So I didn't need that
Well, it's only
confirmation,
a
if that makes
fifty-fifty
sense.
percent chance here, so
But I think it's just little things that
right.
uh, that because again, everyone that I know recently was having a girl. I always felt that my firstborn would be a girl.
Okay.
It's just little things. So
Okay.
on that line as well. I thought, you know what, let's keep it. So and my wife was adamant that she wanted to have it as a bit of a surprise. So
Okay.
it
Okay.
wasn't.
Okay. So when baby came, you weren't like, obviously I'm not to say you weren't happy, but you weren't surprised that it was a girl basically because you already had
No,
it in your
yeah.
mind.
But to be honest with you, I wasn't even thinking about that because this is why it's crazy. Because when it got to the birth, everything I was planning for, and even when I was speaking with Israel, was okay. What should I expect when my wife goes into labor?
Yeah.
What? And I was asking you for advice. I was like, what did you go through?
Yeah.
How did you support your wife? Is there anything I should expect as a red flag? If the doctors are pressurizing me or the midwives saying something, how do I counteract that? So all of my preparation was for a natural birth, and my wife didn't have a natural birth. So I was
Okay.
completely, yeah. So I was completely caught off guard. I was like, so when I was in the hospital, I was like, what? And everything everyone said, all the research I had done went
Yeah.
completely out the window.
Oh my
So
God.
it was crazy. Yeah. So we got to the hospital because leading up to what's it called, us having the baby, we had like forced labor.
Yeah.
So we went into, for those who are watching, forced labor is when you think your wife's going to have a child, so you end up going to the hospital, and they usually send you back. So they sent us back twice before. They're like, look, your wife's not due yet. The third time, we went to the hospital. It was about five o'clock. Again, I assumed they'd send us back. I just didn't
Yeah.
feel that my wife was going to give birth. I wouldn't break or anything like that. So I was like, they're going to send us back. So we went into the hospital, and they're like, no, we're going to review her in about 4 hours' time at midnight. So then I was like, well, they're like, yeah. And then, we'll move you over to the theater, and then your wife will go into labor. And I was like, what? So straight away, I was like, oh, God, I was like, it's happening
It's
today. I was
happening.
like, oh, yeah, it's happening. So I was like, subhanAllah. I was like, okay. So then those 4 hours, it's as if what I planned for. So my wife
Okay.
was having issues. She was breathing. She was just in a lot of pain, and we were just waiting for her to go into labor. It got to about midnight, and then they moved her over to a private room, and that's when it completely went out the window. And we were in there, and then she's in a lot of pain. And there's one thing my wife kept saying to me. She's like, look, the one thing I don't want is epidural. So for those who are
Okay.
watching,
Yeah.
epidural is like they give to reduce the pain. So I don't mind gas in there, But the one thing I don't want is epidural. The reason being is because sometimes there are side effects with epidural.
Yeah.
So she's like, whatever you do, make sure I don't have that. My wife was in so much pain. She was like breaking my arm. I don't think I can even. I've got a feeling left. Thing. So she was holding my arm. She was crying. She's in a very bad way, to be honest. And then they're like, look, what's cool? We're getting ready. We're getting closer and closer to you giving to you having for you to be in labor. Got to about midnight, and then about I think it was about half one. I think it was about 1:30. Um, and the doctors started speaking to themselves, and I was like, this doesn't look normal. Like, what's going on
Mm.
here? They came to me and they're like, your wife seems to be in a lot of discomfort. They're like, what's called, does she want epidural? She doesn't want epidural. Now 15 minutes went, and my wife's like, just give me anything that can reduce the pain, because she was already on gas and air.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, the only thing we can do is give you epidural. And then she went quiet,
Yeah.
which basically I understood that she wanted it, but she didn't want to say it,
Yeah,
because
of
all of this
course,
time
yeah.
she's like, I'm gonna do it. I have a natural birth, and I was telling my wife, I was like, look, there's nothing wrong with taking epidural. If you're in a lot of discomfort, it's
Yeah.
fine. I know there's side effects, but it's your body at the end of the day. Only you can decide, and I'll go
Yeah.
with what you say. I'm not gonna watch you be in discomfort. At the same time, I'm texting her mum, and her mum's like, no, don't let her have epidural. I was like, this, I was like, you're not the one having to watch. Yeah, like, I'm having to watch your daughter, my wife, go through this. It's not nice to see. So I was like, it's fine. Give her epidural. It's not an issue. Even though she didn't say yes, I said, I was like, give her epidural. They're like, cool. Once we're in the delivery, we'll give her the epidural. Then they started looking at the monitor, and my baby's heart rate started dropping.
Right.
So that caused them concern, and they
Mm.
came over to me, and they're like, "Look, this isn't normal. What's called? Don't be alarmed, but we're gonna take her into theatre now." And then they go over to my wife. They're like, "Oh, it's just," and then so they were telling me that it's a serious problem.
Yeah.
They went over to my wife and they're just reassuring her. They're like, "We're getting like specialists. We want you to be in a lot of comfort." And then they
Yeah.
hit the emergency button. There's like 8 doctors that just ran in to the room. So straight away, I was like caught off guard. I was like, "What is this?" Like eight
Yeah.
doctors, they're just surrounding her, like looking at the machine, looking at what's called the stats. And again, I'm completely caught off guard because nobody told me about this. Like, not you, not my friends, nobody told me about this. I was like, what is this? So I was like, I was panicking. I was like, I didn't know what to do. I was like, they're like, look, we're gonna have to go for a C-section. So I'd heard of C-sections before, and one of my friends had his wife went through a C-section, so I was prepared for that. So
Yeah.
they're like, what a C-section is for again those who are watching is basically they do it a slit under the belly, and then they remove the child like that, and your wife is conscious, and the husband's there, and you can see the baby being delivered in that way. The wife is numbed, so she doesn't feel any pain. So they're like, your wife's going to go into a C-section. So I was like, okay, cool. So they told me to get changed. I got changed. I come to a theater. Literally, they're about to put epidural in her, and maybe it's what's called Qadr of Allah, because she always said that she didn't want epidural,
Yeah.
and then within they're like, no, we can't put epidural. We need to put what's called her to sleep,
Yeah.
because there's been even further complications inside with
Wow.
the baby. Baby's getting strangled inside. So that was like a shock. I was like, what? They're like, yeah, we need to put her to sleep, and we're going to carry out an emergency C-section. I was like, I've never even heard of that. I was like, what is that? They're like, yeah, we're going to put your wife to sleep, and then we're going to take the baby out. You need to leave this room. I was like, no, I don't. They're like, no, you need to leave the room. You can't be here. I
No
was
way.
like, yeah, I wasn't expecting that, because
Yeah.
everyone I knew was in the delivery room. And
Of
I didn't
course,
at
yeah.
that point. I didn't want to argue what's called with the doctors and the midwives. I was like, are you saying that I can't be here legally, or are you saying that it's better for me not to be in delivery? They're like, you can't be here. You're not allowed to be in here. So you need to step outside. They're like,
Wow.
we'll call you in 15 minutes. Those 15 minutes were the longest 15 minutes of my
I
life.
can
I was like,
imagine.
because I'm not there. And then obviously, like, because when I missed out part. So when we're moving from the private room to the theater, I was telling my wife, look, I'm here. Don't worry, I'm here. You're not gonna go through this alone. And then obviously in the theater, they're like, she was alone. She was literally alone. Like, I wasn't there, and then it was called. So I was in this. I was just outside the theater waiting. Obviously, just making dhikr, just making
Yeah.
dua, and was just having iman that was called that my wife's going to be okay.
Yeah.
But that's at that point, that's all you can have, faith.
Mm.
And then it's like some kabi kushi kabi gum moment. I know it's happy Fateh moment. My wife's gonna pass away. I'm gonna have to raise my child by myself. I was thinking, just some Bollywood story or something, man. It's crazy. And then her
Subhanallah.
family are messaging me saying, "Oh, what's it called? How's the baby?" And I'm having to delay. I didn't tell them the truth. I
Mm.
was delaying information to them. I was like, "Yeah, what's good? We're gonna go into theater soon." But my wife's already there,
Yeah.
operating, but I'm not providing that information, and they're like asking for updates, and I've seen the messages, and then I'm not replying because I need to just find out step by step. So the information they were receiving was like 20-30 minutes late, so that information was like past news, so to
Mm.
speak, just to manage the situation. And then yeah, so those 15 minutes I was making dua, just having in mind that everything's going to be okay. Alhamdulillah, they came back and they're like, your wife's okay. You've got a beautiful baby girl, and was called, don't worry, they're okay. You'll be able to see them in about
Alhamdulillah.
20 minutes. I was like, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. I was just happy at that point where they're like, the easy part was removing the baby, but it's going to take another hour for us to stitch your wife back up. I
Yeah.
was like, I couldn't again, I was like, all of this was brand new information to me.
Mm.
Okay, cool. Then I was like, can I see my daughter? They're like, yes, you can. So obviously, that was the whole labor situation. And then I got to a situation where when they finally let me see my child, I walked in, and right at the end I could see her, just like her little feet basically wiggling around, like, basically. But as I was walking towards my baby, and then on the right hand side, I saw my wife, and she
Yeah.
looked like really bad way. She had like a gas mask on. She had like wires in what's called on her skin, everything. And I was like, so
Wow.
I was a bit confused. Like
Yeah.
this is meant to be the happiest moment of my life, and at the same time, my wife's there as well. Like, I didn't know how to feel. I was a bit conflicted at
Yeah.
that point. So obviously, I went over to my baby. I done the adhan on her right ear, and then I brought her over to her mum. And obviously, I took some photos, and then her again. Was called my family and her family are messaging me saying, oh, like I told them like what's called she's had a successful baby, blah. They're like, and they want to know the gender. They're like, what's the
Yeah.
gender? Send us a photo. And I didn't want to send them because they're like, because I thought if I don't send something,
Yeah.
they're gonna worry. They're gonna,
Yeah.
why is he not sending us images or telling us the gender of the baby?
Yeah.
At the same time, I wanted to save that moment with my wife because I thought
Mm.
it's her right to see her child first, and was good to know the gender, all of those
Yeah.
things. I wanted to share that with her. But and I was thinking, do you know what? I need to just make a judgment call. And I did share it with her family and my
Okay.
family. I thought, you know what, if I don't know when she's going to wake up. And it's just going to cause more and more panic
Yeah.
amongst the family. They're not going to be able to sleep. And it's just going to cause more issues because, again, all of her family were like, not pressuring. I understand it's concern, it's
Mm.
care. It comes from a good place. And they're all assuming it's a healthy birth. I didn't tell them it's a C-section. I didn't tell them any of that. And again, the same with my family. I didn't want to cause concern. So I shared all that. They were ecstatic. So can you imagine on this side, I've got like WhatsApp messages like celebrating. And then the reality is completely different. The reality is like, I was called my wife's like in a really bad way. And obviously my daughter was born. So I brought my daughter over to my wife. And it's fun, like even when my wife woke up, she thought she was still pregnant. I was like, you've had the baby. I was
Whoa.
like, the baby's been, yeah. She was like out of it. And then I was like, look, this is your baby. So I think she thought she was still in a dream. And then she fell back into a sleep. And then a couple of hours she
Ah.
woke up. And then we got to share those moments. So subhanAllah, that whole labor period was something else and I think that's something I would advise brothers to do research on is you don't need to share that with your wife, but you should know what the difference between a labor, a C-section, and an emergency C-section, and be prepared for all of those things. Like,
Yeah.
alhamdulillah, the way I handled it, I think it was probably the best way I could have handled it.
Mm.
But someone else could have handled it in a different way and it could have had different repercussions. So I would advise brothers, you don't need to share that with your wives, but wives, did I say? And be careful what you're seeing that. But like, yeah, you don't need to share that with your partner, but be prepared yourself so you're able to understand what your wife's going through. and how to react and how to respond. And another advice I'd give to brothers is even if your wife is adamant that they don't want something, take it as it happens, and maybe be open-minded that they might change their opinion, and don't hold them accountable for what they may have said leading up to the birth, because at the end of the day, it's their body. And if they're in serious discomfort, you can't then be like, no, I'm not gonna do it. You say
Yeah.
no, I'm not gonna do it, because you don't, I don't think you're not going through that. And you need to have a level of consideration
Mm,
for the pain that they're going through and the difficulty it is to give birth. But that's what caught me off, Shoaib, because I wasn't prepared for any of that.
bro. Bro,
And it
that
was
was
madness.
you caught me off guard. Man. That's probably the longest I've been silent on a podcast, man. I was just engrossed in that. You started off the whole podcast like, yeah, alhamdulillah, the pregnancy it was good, it was quite smooth. I was really excited, and you dropped this, man. I was like, subhanallah, that's a story and a half, bro, and that's definitely like an experience that you're not gonna forget, and there's so many things to learn from that, and I'm sure it's probably changed just the way that you now think about your relationship with your wife, your relationship with your daughter, even with the family as well, and uh, it's probably even changed like your even had an effect on your iman, I reckon, in terms of having to in that period like may have been one of the only times in your life where you felt like you had to completely surrender yourself to whatever Allah's plan was. Like you had
So
no
just on that
control.
point, Shoaib, yeah, so just on that point you mentioned, Shoaib, so leading up to the birth, me and my wife had a few names for if it was a boy and if it was a girl. There's one name in particular that my wife was wanted, and I was initially I liked it, but then afterwards I just wasn't feeling it for whatever reason. I don't know. I think
Yeah.
I got changed, and she was getting really annoyed. She's like, "Oh, you agreed this, but you changed." She's like, "You're gonna change if." I was like, "No, no. If it's a boy, I like this name, but if it's a girl, I'm not really feeling this name." So she's like, oh, "Cool, whatever." And then so she was like in love with this particular name, and obviously as I was going through this journey, this difficulty, like you mentioned, those 15 minutes, all I needed or all I had was Iman. Like that's the only thing I could bank on, because I was in a lonely place. And after, when I first got to see like my
No.
wife,
You're cutting
knowing
out
that
there.
she's okay, knowing the baby was okay. Again, I had that
This is the wrong moment to cut out, man. Okay, are you
Shoaib, can you
back?
hear me?
Yes, you're back. You're
I'm here.
back.
Okay.
All
Apologies.
right. Oh man, that was
So yeah,
like that
all
was
I
like
had.
I was like I'm listening, and then you start cutting. I'm like no. Sorry.
So
So
yeah, I'm not
so you
sure how much.
what where you stopped was just go back to the bit where you said that in those 15 minutes all you had was iman, and then you were about to explain the whole baby name situation.
Yeah. So yeah, yeah. All I had was Iman at that point, and I was making like obviously sincere dua that my wife and my child would be okay. When I saw them, I had to have that in mind that they're gonna get my wife is gonna wake up, because when I saw her, she was just in a sleep. And then so when I finally when my wife did wake up, it was only befitting that I named my child what my wife wanted originally or what she liked, which was Iman.
Oh. Oh my days. You're dropping
Yeah,
bars in this
so
podcast, bro. You need to be
yeah,
you need to swap seats with me, bro. You need to be the host.
no, no. So it was
Oh,
crazy because that's the name she liked. She liked, and
mashallah,
I like different
mashallah.
variations and a few other names I liked, but I gave her a thought, and then I waited till the 10th day to officially name her.
Yeah.
I thought, let me just see if there is any other names that pop up. But again, I thought, no, I think this defines, and I want her to, because again, a name really defines a person.
Yeah.
And when she does ask me like, Daddy, how did I get my name? I think it's quite important that not only how she was born, but how she conducts herself in life. I
Yeah.
think she can always reflect on her name. And everyone goes through struggles and adversity in life. And I think that's a good name for her to understand, to have patience, to have sabr, and to continue to have faith that things will be okay in the end. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only tests us as much as we can take. So I think I'm happy with the name, alhamdulillah, in the end.
Mashallah,
So
it's a
I
beautiful
think it's
name,
good.
man. Beautiful name with a beautiful story. I can't wait for that moment where she does ask that and you're able to tell her all of this and just have that moment and that bond where she realizes that actually, uh my like my father really was looking forward to having me, and no matter what had happened in that, he was always thinking like, I just can't wait to have my daughter. That's
Yeah.
what it gives. That's the feeling it gives me. It's like that whole thing was just like, I just want to see my daughter. Whatever's happening, I'm gonna get through it. I'm gonna see my daughter. That's how I feel when you're telling me that story. Yes, mashallah, my heart, it's gone very soft. You know,
Alhamdulillah.
alhamdulillah.
But
Okay.
it's crazy, Shoaib, honestly. Like I think and I think everyone has their own story, their own journey, and uh, their own struggle from when they have a child. It might be different. It might not be um, similar to mine. It might be very different. But I think everyone has some sort of shock. I feel like everyone goes through some little shock or some sort of scare within that period. Because even when I mentioned um, I got the results for the test to determine if she's healthy or not. Everyone has that. That's something that's afforded to everyone, and so everyone will have that experience or that worry. Okay, is my baby okay? And how do I plan for that if it's not? Because I know
Yeah.
people who have children with those medical conditions, and that's a strength and that's a test that they have to go through. So again, when I was younger, I used to think that you you get married, you have a child, and it's very simple. But subhanallah, to actually have a healthy child without any complications is a long journey. And those 9 months for me, it was a marathon, but I wanted it to be over, as in not because that it was causing me stress or anxiety in terms of what the pressure my wife may have been giving me, but more so, I just wanted to make sure that the baby was okay and in my arms. I think
Yeah.
that's the protector, as a male figure that you have, that you want to be that shield, you want to be that warrior, whatever it is, to defend your child. And whilst it's in my wife's womb, I can't do anything. And I think that was a difficult situation
Yeah.
because my wife was building an attachment to my baby, and I'm just on the sideline, just waiting
Yeah.
around, not
Yeah.
being able to do anything. So
Yeah.
she's feeling all these kicks, she's feeling that one-to-one closeness with my child. And I think that's one thing that my wife does have a regret about, is
Yeah.
that she wasn't there when Iman was initially born.
Okay.
It was me
My
that was there.
my boys
So
just
I've
walked in.
got
Yes. What do you need? Go downstairs.
I went in the sand castle
Oh, very good.
and the park.
Yeah. Isa, I'm doing some work. Can you go downstairs?
It's really cold.
Okay. Close the door for me, okay? Go. Go, go, go. Close the door. No, no, no. You go. He closed the door and kept himself inside. Okay, you can stay here. Yeah, but sit over there. Sit there. Sit down. Play with your truck. Yeah, sorry. What were you saying?
Yeah, I think, like I mentioned, everyone goes through that struggle,
Yeah.
and I think everyone needs to just try and be as prepared as much as possible, and have faith, and don't whatever challenges you go through, see it as a blessing as well. I think that's the best way to deal with it. I think it's a long journey, and you need to have
Yeah.
a lot of patience with it. And I
Yeah.
think once the baby is here, it's a completely different ball game as well. Because since Iman's come, boy, oh boy, oh boy. That's been another struggle, subhanAllah.
That's
But
what I want to
again,
go into as well, bro.
go for it, go for it.
Go on, go. So you're gonna finish off, and then we'll go into it.
Yeah, I was thinking it's harder than I expected. And when people say, "Oh, you don't get sleep," this and that, that's really, really is true. But I never really understood what they meant by that
Yeah,
until Iman was born. Because again, like you're working on their time, not on your time.
yeah,
And that's something I've always struggled with because I'm quite disciplined in my routine.
yeah,
And now I don't have a routine. My routine's
yeah.
based around her, and I can't do anything about that. So, usually
What
I'd
was
wake
what
up.
was your expectation of how that first month was gonna go prior to Iman coming into this world?
So I always heard about, okay, you're not gonna get sleep. And I thought that's fine. So I assumed she's not gonna sleep in the night, that's fine. Then during the day she'll sleep and I can carry on my everyday business. That's what I assumed, naively.
Yeah.
Machara, you have to understand, bro. So that's what I thought that was good. I could, if she's gonna be up all night, not a problem, then she'll knock out during the day and I can carry on my business during the day, and then
This
I'll
guy
deal with
thought he was
her.
gonna be living the life, you know.
That's what I thought. I'll deal with her around 5, 6 o'clock. Then she'll probably awake them times, and then again keep me up in the evenings. I was trying to work out because I was thinking if she's not sleeping those 8 hours in the evening, I was just shifting it but
Yeah.
it doesn't work. They
No.
sleep like 2 hours in the night, 2 hours here, 2 hours here, 3 hours there. So you can't really do anything. So
Yeah.
that has been a big wake up call because I like routine and I
Yeah.
like having like doing things at a particular time, and she's just literally chucked that out of the window, to be honest with you. So I'm trying to adjust. I still haven't got it. There isn't a healthy balance at the moment because we've had a lot of guests, family, and friends come to
Yeah, of
see
course. Yeah,
us.
naturally, yeah.
But that's also quite fresh as well. So I don't think I'm going to get a routine until another like couple of months. Then
There's
I'll
a
be able
pro
to
and a
adjust.
con to that because, like, when my daughter was born, she was born in the middle of the lockdown, the first lockdown, and
Mm,
that's when the rules were the most strict. And
mm,
so we didn't really have that many visits. I think it was literally just my mum and my wife's mum that came around for the first few weeks. And the pro in that was like we got the time to ourselves, we got time with Sarah ourselves, we didn't have too many disturbances, we were able to just focus. But the con to that was that for the first, I would say 6 to 12 months of her life, she was very shy of other people.
mm,
She's very
yeah.
reluctant to get picked up. She was very reluctant to socialize. Whereas Isa, he was socializing from day one. He was happy to be around and being picked up and played with and whatnot. Now Sarah's starting to open up a bit more. Obviously, she's had a lot more exposure since then, and lockdown rules eased and etc. But for that first year, she's like 16 months now. But for the first year, she was very much like that. So I'd say there's a pro and a con to that because Iman will probably be able to develop those relationships with your family a lot
Yeah.
sooner because they've been around. But
Yeah.
obviously, that means that you and your wife are going to be having to play host whilst also trying to take care of a small baby.
Yeah, I think that's a challenge because I don't think since she's been born, we've had a weekend just me and my wife, to be honest with you. Um, and again, like you mentioned, it's pros and cons because people have been very helpful and supportive. Like people brought food over. What's it called? My mum's been here to look after him, man. So we've had that support network.
Yeah,
Um, but another difficulty that we're facing is she's not getting a routine because we've got so many people coming over here
yeah,
and there. So that's the challenge. But you're right. I think there's pros and cons. We have to look at the pros. The pro is she's a very social baby in a sense that as long as she's getting cuddled, she doesn't matter who was called, who she goes to. As long as she's warm, that's all she cares about. SubhanAllah. So there's pros and cons to that as well. You're right.
mashallah. And how are you as a father building a bond with Iman so early on? Because like you mentioned during the pregnancy period, you didn't feel like you could build a bond
Yeah.
because your wife was connecting with the baby, but you weren't. But also in the first month, it's for a lot of brothers a similar feeling because if, for example, your baby's being breastfed, then even that time when you could have been bottle feeding, your baby actually is being breastfed. So no, you can't even do that. Maybe the most you could do is change a nappy, but other than that, she's always with the mum. And then
Yeah.
and then you're going back to work pretty much. Paternity is only 2 weeks. You pretty much have to go straight back to work, so you get very little time to connect with the baby. But there are ways around that. So what did you do to kind of build that
So
bond?
again, alhamdulillah, I've been very fortunate with my work. They've actually taken a hybrid model. So
Okay.
I've got a lot of flexibility to be with Iman, and I've had that contact with her. So we're actually building a very good relationship in terms of even if she's with me, like even in the evening, she calms down. To be honest with you, she calms down more when she's with me than her mother, because I give in, to be honest with you. Like she'll just lie down on my chest and she'll want to go to sleep. Whereas my wife's like, don't let her sleep on your chest, because then she's not going to let me sleep in the
Yeah.
evening. Whereas, you get it? So she's doing it from a pragmatic point of view. Whereas me, I'm like, listen, I haven't had no attachment to this girl. I'm just gonna do whatever I want. So
Yeah.
then obviously, like, so me and my wife have those clashes and battles, because she knows already that she's got me wrapped around her finger. So anytime she wants anything, I'll, like, my wife will put the speech, like, I'll just let her leave, let her just cry a little bit, and then she'll just calm down. But the minute I hear one wah, I'm running over, jumping like that, this and that, whatever she wants, and until my wife starts making a reappearance again. So I think, look, we're trying to find our way, and I
Yeah.
think there isn't any right way of parenting. I think everyone has a different way to parent, and we're just trying to find our feet as well.
Yeah.
We'll probably definitely get things wrong, and we'll definitely get some things right. I think that's where we are at the moment. I think I'm building a good bond with Iman, and I'm happy where that is going. Um, and I think it was still early days. I'm just waiting for her to be able to interact, so we can understand her needs and wants and her behaviors a bit
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
I think that's where we are at the
I
moment.
was
Yeah.
talking to a brother yesterday and just catching up with him, and he teaches in a school, and he said that he notices the difference between children in his classroom who come from a uh, a household where both parents are involved in their life and show love to them versus those households where maybe the parents are detached from their children, or it's a broken family, single parent, whatever it is, right? He says he notices the difference. And I said to him that, you know, I think that the most important thing that a parent can do, I mean, I'm just chatting from my head here because I don't have kids that are that old
Mm.
yet, but as far as I can see, that those parents that can show love to their child, that can be basically making sure that they are present in the home, and whilst they're present in that home, they are showing love to their children, even if they are not the best parents in terms of educating their child. They're not the best parents in terms of getting everything right. Yes, baby. As long as you can show love to your child, even if you can't get all of the parenting hacks and trips and uh, all that kind of stuff right, even if maybe you're not the most practicing parent Islamically, and you can't role model that to your child, if you can make sure you're active in the household and showing them love, I think that is gonna make the biggest difference to how that child grows up in terms of their confidence, in terms of their growth, in terms of their relationship with other people and their peers. Isa, don't touch that. In terms of just their wholesome self, and that's what I try to remind myself about when Isa, don't go there.
I'm trying to show you.
Yeah, just don't go there. No, you're gonna hurt yourself. This is, I'm not gonna cut this out. This is like real
That's
life right
fine.
here.
Go for it.
Hey, stop. Okay,
It
don't
wouldn't be
touch
a
it. Okay,
dadhood podcast if there wasn't
I'm
kids
telling
running
you.
around.
Don't touch it. Okay, don't touch it. It's gonna. Don't touch it. It's gonna fall. Don't touch it. It's gonna fall. It's gonna knock over the camera in a second. What was I saying? Yeah, that's what I try to remind myself about, because sometimes I feel like at the end of the day, I'm failing Isa, I'm failing Sarah. Like I haven't, maybe I've given them too much screen time, for example. Maybe I haven't reacted in the right way in terms of my emotions, and maybe I was getting angry with them too much. Isa, don't go there. Stop.
I'm trying to show you.
But I know, but I'm trying to stop you getting hurt. and maybe you know, I'm failing in these departments, but then I try to remind myself that as long as I'm present, I'm showing them love, that's going to be most important. And he's turned off the light. Good job. All right, don't turn
But
it
you know
off.
what? I completely agree with you, Shrey, because the way I look at it is, I don't. Look, we all want to give the best for our children. We want them to have, you know, the best education. We want to be able to spoil them. We want them to be surrounded by people of good nature.
Yeah,
I agree with all of those things, but we have to also be pragmatic in terms of what can we physically do
yeah,
to make sure that that takes place.
yeah,
And the most important thing is to actually be there, to be present.
yeah.
And for me, the way I try and live my life is breaking things down in seven. So making sure that every day I commit 7 quality hours to work, seven
Okay.
quality hours towards sleep, and 7 quality hours to recreational activities. That could be, you know, as an example, spending time with my family and my
Yeah,
kids, and the other three can be a combination of whatever you want to do.
yeah,
Um, and at least that way, you know, you've got balance in your life.
yeah,
You're not overworking at the expense of your children.
yeah,
You're not, and at the same time, you're not spending more time with your children at the expense of work. Because then you've got
yeah,
that balance where you know that if I'm giving X amount of hours, this is 1/3 of my time that I'm giving. This is the
yeah,
max output I can give towards work, and this is the level of income that I'll be able to achieve from it. And alhamdulillah, you know, live amongst that to give to your family, because at least that way you're not compromising your time with your family.
yeah.
Because
This
again,
is
someone can
this is
say,
my
oh,
cameraman right here, by the way, in case you're wondering what's going on.
because
Yeah,
someone
I like
could,
that rule. I like that rule.
yeah, because someone could give 10, 12 hours towards their family. That's
Yeah,
fine. And if, for example, but if that's going to compromise your work, you're
yeah,
not then therefore being able to give a quality life to your family. And
yeah,
if you've got that balance, that balance, then you're
yeah,
not really doing it at the expense of any of the other ones. And again, you need to look after your well-being as well. And sleep is important, especially
yeah.
now that you've got a kid as well. So if you've got 7 hours quality sleep, then alhamdulillah, you know, you're living that balanced life.
I think a lot of people are gonna say, you know, that's a great rule, but bro, you don't know what you're getting into. Your baby is only 1 month old. You think you could keep at this 7-7-7 rule, but you're not gonna be able to. But you know, I think it's the principle behind it. You know,
Yeah,
the numbers don't really matter. It's the principle behind it,
yeah,
and
exactly.
as long as you can do that. then that's definitely it's good. Do you know what, bro? I think this is Issa telling me that it's time to close up the podcast. All
No
right, so
worries.
Issa, stop. I'm gonna press it. You wait for me, okay? So Jazakallah khair, bro. I appreciate you coming on, and we're gonna have to wrap up there. And inshallah, look, we need to. This was like probably my favorite episode, yeah. So we're gonna.
I think that's a wrap.
Okay, so I don't have video anymore. So we're gonna have to wrap up there. All right, Yusuf, thank you
No
very
worries,
much,
Shay.
bro.
Thank you for
Appreciate
having
it.
me.
Take
I
care. Yeah,
appreciate it,
assalamu
man.
alaikum.
Inshallah.